Oh, welcome in to the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter, and I'm joined as always by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Vols on Twitter. What are you up to, you big Tennessee homer?
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Oh, man. I know we've been saying it, Shane, but just all day, every day, I'm talking to people about SEC football. I'm hearing clips from coaches on SEC football. We're seeing clips. We're seeing photos. I mean, the season is right around the corner. I can sense it. How about you?
Dude, and how many times have you been watching clips and you're like, oh, Saban's talking, and you find out it's like 3 years ago, and he's talking about, Tua or something. You're like, oh, man, this is a classic. So, no, we're actually getting real content, and that's what I love about it. And I can't keep up with it, Mike. I'll see something, and then Lane Kiffin talked or something. I'm like, damn, that happened 2 hours ago? What's going on? Why wasn't I notified? So that's, hey, I'll tell you before we get going, if you guys, Mike's the one that's on top of this thing. And I'll tell you, if you get on the YouTube channel, that SEC podcast, turn your notifications on, because anytime he gets a practice video or a coach's clip or anything like that, man, it's instantly uploaded. So turn the notifications on. That's what I did today, Mike. I took a little bit of my own medicine here, and I turned on notifications so I could keep up with all the damn news in the SEC.
Well, I appreciate that, Shane, and I appreciate each and everybody that goes that extra step and does that. Been mailing those koozies out. My mailman, this is the time of year my mailman hates me. He hates driving up to my house. But, Shane, on the last episode, go back and check it out if you missed it. But we talked about my Finebaum appearance, which it's always a treat to go on that show. And I always wonder what they say about me as soon as I hop off the line. We got one of them crazy Finebaum callers, Shane. I mean, he put me, if I was on a high, Shane, he put me right back in my place here. Let's kick it over to one of the crazy Finebaum callers here.
Woo! Let me tell this about Michael Branton. Somebody ought to stick a GoPro up your ass so you see how full of crap you really are, dude.
Oh, my goodness.
Let me tell you something.
All right, Chase. Hey, how great was that? I mean, if you put yourself out there like I do, you got to be willing to take this kind of abuse from these fans. And hey, I love it. I love the fact that dude knows my name. You know what?
That's right. What is that Nick Roush burner account right there? Oh, I love it. We saved it, and I will be using it often, Mike.
But hey, Shane, the folks are here for the football update. As promised, we're going to get to some SEC East teams. We got a lot of SEC East content to get to. But one SEC West item, Shane, to start with, let's kick it on down to Ole Miss, where, man, Lane Kiffin has summed up how wild and crazy this transfer era truly is. I mean, this is something he's been kind of, he's in on the recruiting and the NIL.
Yeah.
They've been taking advantage of the transfer portal. And without even saying anything other, Shane, let's kick it over real quick to Lane Kiffin, who, again, sums up perfectly what this crazy, crazy transfer portal era is like that we're currently living in.
Lane, just a weekend of practices. Where would you guys say you guys are on schedule, behind schedule, above schedule, just kind of from where you want it to be through 6 practices?
I think we're probably close, to the variables being all the new guys, and so probably not where we'd want to be normally, but I do have to take that into consideration because, again, your new guys usually are at the bottom. You got a lot of new guys that have played a lot, and, we expect them to play, and that's why they're here. So that's a work in progress, and it's really both sides. As you guys being out there, you can look out there and see easily, half the guys out there going against each other, are portal guys. So, I thought about it in, play today, and I'm like, that guy was just playing for Auburn, covering the guy that just played for Mississippi State. So it's just the world we're in.
So how about it, Shane? I mean, my goodness, we're talking the Ole Miss coach, and he's recognizing, well, that was an Auburn defensive back, Mississippi State receiver. And, I mean, you you don't even know which Mississippi State receiver he's talking about because they've taken multiple of them. You know what I mean?
Exactly. You're gonna have to Google that, and you still don't know. So no, this is the age of college football, man. This is what this ain't your papa's college football. You know what I'm saying? This is
right.
This is a new generation, and it is going to be a revolving door, not just Ole Miss, but all these SEC teams. And this isn't the last time we talk about it. And in fact, I think it gets a little bit more hairy as we go on.
Well, let me ask you this, Shane, because this is kind of where my mind goes. I know a lot of people, they hate the portal, they hate all these transfers, but to me it makes it exciting because we got no clue what LSU is going to be. We got no clue what Ole Miss is going to be, but they've added to their roster so many new pieces. It adds to the mystery. It adds to me what college football should be, the expectation, the excitement, and then we get to talk about it for 9 months and then see how right or wrong, mostly wrong, we are on the field. And it's not just Ole Miss and LSU. It's the entire SEC. I mean, you got a deficiency on your roster. You go to that portal, you can shore it up immediately when, let's say 5-10 years ago, Shane Beamer takes over that South Carolina job. You'd have to say, well, we got to give them 3, 4, 5 years before we know what that thing's like. They have high expectations, and they should year 2, and in large part because of all these great transfers they've added. And again, I think it's great for the excitement and just the uncertainty going into a season. Yeah,
and how do they do on your team? You know what I'm saying? How many times have we seen a transfer like Burrows or just maybe they weren't doing so great at a certain program, then they show up on your campus and all of a sudden they're the highlight, man. Right. They're the NFL talent. How many times have you seen a quarterback or a wide receiver? I think of the cornerback that went up to Kentucky. Right. He comes out a first round draft pick, and does he do that if he stays with his current roster? I mean, that's the beautiful thing about transfers is you're going to find some of these diamonds in the rough, and they're going to shine on your team. And I think Ole Miss is going to have a handful of those that you may not have been talking about them last year, but at the end of the season, you're going to say, look what Lane did with this talent.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many guys you could point to like that, Shane. Jamison Williams, receiver, Alabama. Hendon Hooker, Tennessee. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So I cannot wait to see.
Maybe it's Max Johnson this year.
Right.
Maybe it may. You just never know who's going to emerge. Who was held back maybe with an offensive system or defensive coach, and then he's just kind of cut loose this year with a new ball club. That's the wonderful thing about transfers, man.
Yeah. Now, last thing about Ole Miss, Shane, Lane Kiffin talks the quarterback competition between Jackson Dart and Luke Altmaier. He doesn't reveal much here, but he does kind of say, well, hey, maybe we took Matt Corral for granted with his greatness last season and everything he was able to give that football team. But I thought more importantly, Shane, that the bigger question, that the second one, will recruiting rankings, transfer rankings, all this hype, will that play into the decision? And I think the reporter was maybe a little afraid to ask specifically, Shane, but I think what he's really trying to say is, will NIL money factor in to these big decisions of who will start for your football team? Let's kick it over to Lane Kiffin.
I guess time for the obligatory quarterback question. Looked like they both had a couple of good days these last 2 days. Just how are they progressing?
I mean, I know it sounds like a broken record. They do some things really well, and then at times they look young again. So, and everything in life is about what you just saw. So, not trying to say I'm smarter than other people, but, you take for granted what you have in life in all areas sometimes. And I kept telling our guys the last 2 years, especially last year, guys, these throws, ain't many people making these throws. And, you're just used to every throw being, in there and not just miss. So, it takes some getting used to having new quarterbacks and losing a veteran that was, elite arm talent.
You were talking about with the QBs, Jackson and Luke, how they both, some do some good things, bad things, and it seems like it's pretty close between the two. If they remain close, when the season was approaching, do you think the fact that Jackson was a big splash transfer portal addition, would that play any of a role into a tie-breaking vote for him to start, just to impact the transfer portal for the future? Just so, like, if you wanted to get a QB in the future, a guy would be like, oh, if I go to Ole Miss, I'll actually play there, you know?
Yeah, that's a fair question. That absolutely would have nothing to do with how we play players here. And we've got tons of examples over time. We don't care how many stars you are, where you're from, whether you're from the state, whether you're not. I mean, when I got here, I was dumb for playing the other quarterback. So, you know, we don't look at anything that way. So it doesn't matter where he came from or whether he played or how many stars he is. Will have nothing to do with whether he plays. But fair question.
So how about it, Shane? I mean, I don't know the figures for Jackson Dart, but apparently he landed a huge deal. So how wild would it be if, Ole Miss, maybe the most expensive player on their team's riding the bench right out the gate, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's created pressure, man. It's created controversy already down there. I mean, you talk to any Ole Miss fan, for the most part, or even if they're not, they're just they follow the program enough. That's who you're assuming the quarterback will be.
Right.
You look what he was able to do with Matt last year, and you think, oh, he just plug and play. It's an easy fix, but you're not at the practice. How many times has he come out and said, these guys are young. They're making mistakes. Let me ask you, Mike, because when you listen to these coaches talk, sometimes they come out like the one we had yesterday down there at A&M. He was so damn pumped up about his football program. You feel good about that offense.
Right.
You'll hear Heupel in a little bit. He sounds good about his offense, but every time I hear Lane, he's bitching about something. And I don't know if is he setting us up? I mean, is he trying to lower the expectations on Ole Miss and this quarterback? Do you feel that, or am I just reading too much into it? Because first it's the NIL, then it's he's bitching about the transfer, even though he's got most of the transfers down there. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to figure him out, and what is he saying to us about his football team? And I can't help but think that he's trying to get us to lower some expectations here.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, Shane, because we call him the Portal King. What he really is, in my opinion, is the kind of lull you to sleep king, because he's got me 2 years in a row, and maybe I'm falling for it again, but he always sets the bar so low. I remember the COVID year, he's coming out here saying, I don't even know these kids' names. I don't know who they are, because I wasn't allowed to interact with them. And then all of a sudden, he threw them out on the field, and my God, they had like the most dynamic offense in the remember, they scored about 50 points on an Alabama team that went and won the national championship. So
yeah,
I think this is what Kiffin does. I think he downplays it, and that's not to say that these two quarterbacks are Joe Burrow and Tua out there, but they might be a little bit better than old Kiffin's letting on, and I cannot wait to find out when they open up against their 4 or 5 cupcakes and see how many thousands of yards they have piled up after that stretch. You know what?
I don't know, Mike. I used to do this. We'd have pickup basketball games, I'd come in there and we'd be talking, like, man, I'm so sore. I shouldn't have lifted so hard yesterday. I just kind of set them up so when I airball some 3 balls later, I could blame it on the bench press.
Well, Shay, we got to move on. Let's jump back to the SEC East as promised, and let's go with the defending national champion, Shane. And boy, do we got a familiar coach here that we obviously haven't heard from this guy in a while. Oh, Will Muschamp.
I will tell you what, man. I used to hate Muschamp. I'll never forget. After Florida game, he yelled at the fans there at Tennessee, listen, he said some comments that just it rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
But damn, it's like, like we fought once, okay? But we're friends, because the more I hear him, I'm just like, man, this is a guy I'd like to hang out. Him and Pittman, he's just one of those guys that you're just naturally drawn to when you hear him talk.
Yeah, and I wish, during his stops at South Carolina and Florida, he maybe showed a little bit more of this personality.
Yeah.
That's what I was always told, behind the scenes, great guy. And then he gets in these press settings and just automatically flips on the dick switch. You know what I mean? And I think that hurts you. Now, does that cost you your job? No. But it can, like you said, Sam Pittman's a perfect example. He's a straight shooter. He tells it like it is. He doesn't suck up to anybody. If they ask a dumb question, He basically says, I don't know how to answer. That's a weird question. But the rest of the time, man, I mean, he's out here with his Coors Light can on the sideline. You know what I mean? I mean, that's who these guys are. They might as well show that personality. And I'm glad you started it with that, Shane. So let's kick it over to Will Muschamp. You'll get some of this personality. He's asked about you can't hear the questions. They did a poor job passing the microphone down here, but he's asked about being co-defensive coordinator with Glenn Schumann. He's asked about working with all these Georgia alums down there with Kirby and Mike Bobo and Brian McClendon and on and on and on, and how they build chemistry on that defensive side of the ball with so much turnover. This is kind of really where the coach in him takes over.
I've been called a lot of things, but you go ahead, whatever you want. Absolutely. I didn't really. I knew of Glenn, but I didn't really know Glenn till last year. And had a wonderful working experience with he and Dan and Trey Scott, and obviously Coach Smart is on the defensive side of the ball a lot. But we had a really good rapport as far as our, what we needed to do to be successful, and there's nothing's going to change with that. We have a great working relationship. Glenn's promotion, in my opinion, is very well deserved. He's an outstanding football coach. He's extremely bright. He has a great rapport with his players. And you really look at Coach Smart's going into the 7th season here at Georgia. The 2 longest tenured coaches are Glenn and Dale McGee. And you really look over those 7 years, consistency of their position groups probably is the best that's been here in those 7 years. Arguably, I'm sure there's different years, but his position's been very productive. He's recruited extremely well at his position. He's just an outstanding football coach. He has a very good understanding of what we do defensively, how we adjust things out, and he's always looking for a better way to do it and always researching those things and what can we do to get better in those situations. But I really enjoy working with Glenn just because of the intelligence, the football intelligence he has, and the passion he brings to the job every single day, because those things are really important, and the players see that, and they understand how invested he is in them. Well, that's great. I mean, it's, again, I appreciate Coach Smart giving me the opportunity to be here. Obviously, I think Mike's a great addition for us. Brian McClendon's a great addition for us. Todd Hartley, another Georgia graduate. All of those guys are guys that I'm more familiar with. Coach Smart and Coach Bobo and Coach McClendon. I'm getting to know Todd in the last year. The guy's an outstanding football coach. But all of those guys have a vested interest in the University of Georgia. And not that we didn't know other places, but at the end of the day, this is where you went to school. And certainly glad to be here. But I enjoy working with people. I told the players one night when I was talking to them, we spend more time with you guys and our coaching staff than we do our own families. I'm not proud to say that, but this is not a job. It's a lifestyle. That's what it is. And so you like to be able to spend time with people that you enjoy being around. And we certainly do. And I credit Coach Smart and the staff that he's hired. There's people in the building that you enjoy coming to work because you like what you do, but you also like the people you're working with, and that's important. Well, I think as a staff, that's something we've been really cognizant of making sure that, just creating the best version of each of those young men every single day. And continue to develop leadership, continue to develop the mental and physical toughness that you're going to need to have in our league to play and to be successful. We understand what good looks like around here. We also understand what elite looks like around here. And the standard doesn't change. The standard's the standard. That's been set by the head football coach, and our players and our staff understand that.
All right, Shane. So, hey, man, how great was that hearing old Will Muschamp, a guy I didn't know we'd ever get back on this show.
I know, man. I mean, he's going to be around in the SEC forever. And you kind of wonder, this isn't a forever home, but it's such a good fit for him right now, especially kind of rehab his and maybe take some notes, because I think there's a lot of things he wish he would have done different in Florida. There's a lot of things he probably wish he'd done different in South Carolina. He's down here with the national champ and Kirby Smart, but he's also surrounded by some great minds. I love what Georgia does. It's right out of the Nick Saban book, man. You surround yourself with successful coaches. Maybe they've had a couple of bad seasons, but you bring them in and you rehab them, and I just think it makes it better in that room, because even though he's not he's not the assistant coach here, you know what I'm saying, but he is. I guarantee you there's conversation that Kirby have just with him, picking his mind in a situation,
Mm-hmm. And the other co-defensive coordinator, Glenn Schumann, Shane, he's been with Kirby Smart all the way back to their days at Alabama. He started working for Kirby when he was 18. Now he's damn near, I think he's like 35 years old. So about half his life here, Shane, he's been working for old Kirby Smart. So maybe a name around the SEC you don't know, but he's one of the best recruiters for the Georgia Bulldogs, and that's saying something because that staff recruits as well, if not better, than everybody in the country, Alabama included. I mean, they're neck and neck with the Crimson Tide. So what is this going to look like, Shane, with Glenn Schumann finally getting his chance to be a defensive coordinator for the Georgia Bulldogs? And despite the fact that they were so efficient and elite on that side of the ball, they're still very cognizant that you have to adjust as the game does. So let's kick it over to Glenn Schumann talking about working with Kirby and how the defense will adjust this season in Athens.
But I think, when you are coaching defense, you have to evolve with the times, right? Every year what offenses are going to do to attack you and their trends offensively are going to change. So no matter where this defense has existed, no matter who's been in charge of it, no matter what the coaches on staff have been or the players, the goal has been to create a defense that can create problems for offenses, answer the challenges they present, right? So every year that'll look a little bit different. Our top calls every year are a little bit different, right? The way we use our personnel is a little bit different. You figure out who your best players are, what you need to do successfully, and you do that as a staff cooperatively to give yourself the best chance on game day. And, when you do that, you get a good product.
Well, Shane, I'll tell you one thing he picked up from Kirby is no personality in these press conferences,
No, dry as a piece of toast, ain't he? But I'll tell you what's interesting about this guy, man. You talk about finally getting a shot. The kid's like 30-something years old, like 31, 32 years old, very, very young. Already has 5 national championships under his belt. You know what I'm saying? Never played football. He comes out. He goes with Nick Saban. He hangs out with him for a little bit. He becomes Kirby Smart's right-hand man while he's down there in Alabama. The first hire he makes is this cat, and he's finally getting a shot. I'm telling you, this is a guy that will be a head coach before you know it. I mean, the people that talk about him, he's like Rain Man when it comes to football. So I think I love the idea that they promote from within. And I think that adds to bringing future coaches down to that staff.
Yeah.
And he's going to get another opportunity. And I'm telling you, Georgia's got a good one here.
Yeah, it's almost like, he is the Kirby Smart for what Nick Saban had with Georgia's elite coaching. You know what I mean?
That's right.
It's a role reversal of a little bit.
Yeah, no, this is the way I think it should be done, and the players have bought in, and yes, he is not fun to listen to, but
he'll get there.
If you read, if you talk to players, man, they talk about him and film study and stuff. There's just not a lot of people do it as good as he does, and that's why I think you look at the edge the Bulldogs had on defense. A lot of that was behind the scenes, Schumann and Kirby, and I mean this is defensive mind coaches down there. It's a clinic, man. It's a freaking it is an NFL defense clinic down there.
Yep. Now, staying in the East, Shane, let's kick it on down to Rocky Top. Josh Heupel met with the media here on Tuesday. And, before we jump into kind of his comments, Shane, I just thought this was interesting. I don't know if you saw it, but it's been going around. I think I saw it on ESPN official or SEC Network or something like that. But Greg McElroy, we all know SEC Network analyst, former Alabama quarterback. He's on record that this, I believe the quote is, completely unstoppable offense is what they're going to be running here at Tennessee. And I mean, I got a number of people that have texted this to me and asked me to provide my thoughts on it. And, I'm not trying to pump the brakes because we respect the hell out of Josh Heupel and his offensive system. Hendon Hooker, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. The potential is there, but you got to solve left tackle. That's kind of important.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Tennessee, and we'll get to Lynn J. Dixon here in a minute, but I still don't think Tennessee's got an elite running back. I think they got some good running backs, but it's a little hard for me to say this is like the greatest show on turf 2.0.
Right.
And we're looking for receivers to step up and emerge. Now, I know they got pieces there, but a lot of question marks for Tennessee, if I'm being honest, before we get to the Greg McElroy hype level. What about you?
Oh, Mike, I wish we could flip seats here and I could kick you out and listen to Greg talk all night long, you know. He's trying to win me back, I think, you know, because there's a lot of times I've wanted to turn him off, you know, but this is what you want to hear as a Tennessee Vol fan. This is what you're expecting going into this season.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously there's a few things we're going to have to work out here in the offseason. Running back's not a big thing for me, because I do think it's different for the University of Tennessee than it is for Florida, than it is for Texas A&M. You know, we run a style of offense that provides opportunity for anybody back there in the backfield. So we don't need, you know, Herschel Walker. We don't, you know, we don't need the Clydesdale. We need somebody that could come in there and protect our quarterback, but also take advantage of those wide open spaces, because there's going to be plenty of them with this Heupel offense.
Well, I mentioned Lynn-J Dixon, Shane, the running back from formerly of Clemson. Now he is officially eligible. He's ready to compete for the Tennessee Vols. And he's got 2 seasons.
Boy, he took off. He took off quick, didn't he? I think he's the hottest selling jersey up here in Knoxville right now. Hell, I was even getting lost. I don't know if some of them videos were sped up, but it looks like we got some more speed back there. So I'm excited for that. I mean, he's just doing dumb drills, and it's like 100 comments like, "We're back, baby," you know. So I don't know if Heupel talks about it here in a second. He's got a lot to work on as far as the playbook. Yeah. But the main thing for me, Mike, is something that you started with at left tackle. This is a key area. That's what it is. Protect the quarterback. You know, our quarterback got a little banged up last year,
right?
And we cannot afford for that to happen again this year. We don't need him to win all aspects of the game. We don't need him to run. We don't need him to throw all the time. We need it to be a little bit more balanced. But he needs to stay vertical and not get hit, and that comes with protection. And that's why I don't think we rushed this running back out there just yet. And I'm curious, very curious, how this left tackle position plays out.
Yeah, and it's so critical, Shane. Tennessee gave up more sacks than any SEC offense last fall, but they do bring back 4 or 5 on the offensive line, so that it should be an improved unit to be sure. But that left tackle is so critical, obviously. But what I was going to say about Lynn-J Dixon, Shane, he's been in here for a couple practices now at Tennessee, and you get the practice videos, you get the practice observations, and apparently Josh Heupel spending a lot of time with Lynn-J Dixon at these practices, trying to get him up to speed, which gives you an indication that they brought him in here for a reason. This is not just a body that they did need depth, no doubt.
Right.
But they're not just bringing him in here to be a depth piece. They're bringing him in to use him. So that is something to keep an eye on. And then, I don't want to call this bad news yet, Shay, but I'm still Brew McCoy, receiver, still not eligible.
Yeah.
But we'll get to Josh Heupel's comments in just a second. It sounds like he's stepping up. And if they had no confidence that he was going to play, I don't think they'd be giving him so many reps here in fall camp, because they need some receivers to step up. So let's kick it over to Heupel. Talks Lynn-J Dixon, what he brings to the offense, that left tackle battle, and then some receivers stepping up. Brew McCoy, the second-year player, Walker Merrill, and then Ramel Keaton, who we're still waiting for him to emerge there on Rocky Top.
We kind of maybe take Hendon for granted after last year, but how was he today? What did you think about the quarterback
really
play?
Good, really efficient, effective. Handled the operation side of it extremely well. He's been in really good command of what we're doing offensively, keeping us out of bad plays, bad situations. Turning negatives into zero. Been decisive, getting the ball out of his hands. In complete command of what we're doing on the offensive side of the ball. Run game and pass game, protections as well. Really pleased with his progress, through spring ball, but even after spring ball to where he is now. Did some really great things out there today. Yesterday had a great day too, and love where he's at. Keep fighting and be ready for week one. Go be your best.
Coach, sticking at running backs, this is the first time I think we've talked to you since Lynn J. Dixon joined the team. Just what's this past week or so, and I guess it's not even been a week for him, been as he tries to catch on, and what did you see from him today?
Yeah, with Laneith being out for the season because of the injury, felt like it was important that we continued to try to look for and add another body in that room if there was one available that fit what we're going to need. And since he's gotten in, right, he's in a race to understand and learn what we're doing as fast as he possibly can. He's been able to flash in some of our situational stuff that we've done. For him to go out and operate and function in everything that we're doing right now, he's probably not at that point. But I've been really pleased with the effort that he's put into it. He's competed in a really good way out there on the practice field and in the stadium, and looking forward to his progression here on the back half of training camp here as we push towards game week.
I realize this is a position where you have to go back and watch the tape and really study it, but that left tackle competition, anything stood out today or even in the other practices since we talked to you last?
Yeah, without going back and watch it, I would hate to comment on today. Overall, both of them are highly competitive. They've progressed from where they were in spring ball. They still got room to grow, and they've handled it the right way, the competition between those guys. We will need them all. We will need those two, but we'll need them all up front. That's just the nature of the beast here in this league. So you're not just competing against somebody else, although you are, right? The competition's within yourself, and I'm pleased with what they've done here in the first week of training camp.
You mentioned the slot and feeling good about what you've seen there here lately, but what about the outside receiver spot opposite Cedric Tillman? How are some of those guys coming along here in camp?
Yeah, I feel like Ramel's done some positive things. Walker Merrill's been out there and has made some plays, operated really efficiently. Brew's done some really good things in some of our practices. That's a point of competition here still on the back half of training camp, and we got to have multiple guys step up, and certainly would like at least one of them to step up and grab a hold of that position.
Ooh, boy, man, he sounds fired up about old Hendon Hooker, though, doesn't he?
Oh, Mike, man, I'm on cloud 9 right now. I'm at a 10. I can't wait to see this offense go. No, I'm ready, and it excites me when he talks about the receiving. He did go on a lot about these slot receivers, but we need something on the outside. It can't just be the Tillman show. So, creating, because how many times have we thrown it deep? You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a lot of Hail Marys almost, it feels like, and that's what you got to do to stretch this offense. So we're going to need some of that deep threat there on the outside.
Yeah, and last little thing here on the Vols, Shane, keep this guy in mind. Freshman running back Dylan Sampson. Hearing good things about him. Now, can he pass protect? That's going to be critical to see if he can get him on the field. But I'm hearing good things about him, and I think he's a guy we're going to see on the field next season for Tennessee. Dylan Sampson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're going to see a lot of names, Mike. That's one thing that I'm being real with you. Heupel's going. That's what he wants. He wants a lot of rotation with every position, and I know a lot of SEC teams do that, but the way they run their offense, man, they have got to have substitutes ready, and it can't be. I mean, it's got to be competitive depth, and I'm feeling that vibe in camp that they've got more than one or two. You're looking at even the left tackle. I think he's confident in both of them, and that's what he wants. He wants both of them to be able to play, and that's, I think, what every SEC coach wants is just that competitive depth. And every season that Heupel's there, I think he's getting more and more of it.
Now, next, Shane, let's kick it on down to Gainesville. Where Billy Napier, he met with the media here on Tuesday as well. Asked about Anthony Richardson and the growth. We all know how important Anthony Richardson is to this team, particularly this year where they're lacking some depth on probably both sides of the ball. But you remember when we were down there at Media Day, Shane, we interviewed Zach Goodall from Sports Illustrated, covers the Florida Gators, and the point he made, of course, Anthony Richardson has had his injury issues. What happens if that star quarterback goes down? the Gators virtually got nothing behind them. They got a couple freshmen. They got
Right.
Ohio State transfer with 4 years of eligibility. It sounds like these guys are doing their part. Billy Napier seems pleased with them. Now, could be just coach speak, but hey, he seems pretty fired up about it. And also, one thing they have got to get fixed, one thing that just killed them last season, particularly that Kentucky game that led to Shane singing on the show, penalties. They have got to fix these penalties. And as Billy Napier says, more games are lost than won due to damn penalties. So let's kick it over to old Billy.
Should have got a personal foul for singing that damn song,
Billy, everybody's talked about Anthony Richardson. Obviously, we'd like to know what your impressions are of him. But would you talk about the rest of the quarterback room and what you're seeing from them so far? I know it's early in the practice thing, but you obviously have impressions of each guy out there.
Yeah, friends. I mean, I think we've got a chance to watch these guys for 5 days. Anthony, there's no question that his confidence and comfort level with the verbiage, with the communication, I think he's more concise, and we've seen him be much more accurate. The old adage, we're on the same page. I think we're making progress to being on the same sentence, if that makes sense. So he is, I think his feet are in the right place because he's processing quicker. He's able to anticipate, and the ball's going to the right place. So very pleased with Anthony and where he's at. I think he's getting more comfortable in that leadership role and the things that come with being the quarterback at the University of Florida. Jack Miller also has done extremely well. Been very pleased with Jack. Yesterday in particular, we gave him a few racks with the first group, just as a healthy experience for him, and I thought he did some really good things. So, in this setting, at quarterback, you're dependent on the players around you, the offensive line, the tight ends, the running backs, the receivers. So I think when we get things, we're executing. Jack's very capable. And I will say this, going all the way back to spring, he's moved our team. I know the spring game he threw a couple interceptions and all that, but he's consistently made the right decision. He's very capable. He's got arm talent. He's accurate, and he's a good athlete. So I think we made a really good decision there, and realizing that he is a freshman, right, and he has 4 years to play. I would say Kitna is the player that I probably saw the most growth in, from spring practice, just to see him take another step. Fundamentally, I thought he's throwing the ball much more consistently, much more accurate, better grasp. Had a little bit of a setback injury-wise. We anticipate getting him back. He had a small procedure just yesterday. And then Max is a rookie player, and he's going through those growing pains that most rookie quarterbacks go through, right? Everybody's a little bigger, a little faster, a lot of information, a lot to process there. And he's a reflection of most of the rookies on our team. So,
players over the weekend were talking about the penalty reports, and also notice you have officials and all the practice. How much are players, you think, taking that to heart, and what have you seen in growth as far as that aspect of the game?
Well, more games are lost than won, right? And I think I think one of the things you got to do is as a staff, is teach your players what winning football looks like. We've always taken tremendous pride in not giving the other team anything, right? And I think undisciplined penalties are, things that you can eliminate, right? You start there. You start with undisciplined penalties. You start with turnovers. You start with mental errors, lack of effort plays, fundamental and technique flaws. We want to eliminate the chinks in the armor, right? Make the other team beat you. And we've always taken great pride in that. I think incrementally each year at the previous stop, we got better in those areas. But when you're taking over a team or a business or any form of leadership, I think the first thing you do is you quality control. What are the things that have nothing to do with the competition or the opponent, and you try to address those things. This is an exercise we do each year. We're going to have some penalties in the game. Our goal is to play 1 in every 30 plays, and we want those to be technical penalties and not undisciplined penalties. So we're making progress there. I think we won't know until we get into that competitive opportunity in venues, but I think it's part of the growth of this team and the education of this team.
All right, Shane, you still awake over there?
Oh man, just finished. That's one thing. Have you ever tried the caffeine alcohol? Have you ever done that? I did a lot of Jaeger bombs growing up. That was like my version of caffeine. But now they've got so many damn drinks out here. Apparently, you could get drunk and alert at the same time. I don't know if that's a good combination. You know what I'm saying? But you may need a shot of coffee after that one. But Billy's never been the guy to wow us at the podium. You know what I'm saying? And it is what it is. But he did. If you think about what he said, he had some great comments here, Mike.
Yeah, and more camp buzz that I'm hearing, Shane, when we talk around the SEC Florida Gators. This transfer they brought in from Arizona State, Ricky Pershaw.
Yeah.
Apparently he's the real deal. And he's going to be maybe their number one receiver this year down there in Gainesville. Yeah. Now, does that fire you up that maybe you got an elite player? Or does it say, well, hell, maybe we didn't have many receivers down here. But I have been hearing good stuff about Trent Whittemore, who's back as well. So those are just two names to keep your eye on. I think they're going to be two of the better receivers to start the season for the Florida Gators. Ricky Pershaw and Trent Whittemore, getting some good buzz out of those two from camp.
And I'll tell you this, too, on the quarterback front. You can't go into a season worried about your QB1 because I think when you look at the East, Mike, there's a lot of schools that are in trouble if QB1 goes down.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it with Tennessee. I mean, what's behind Will Levis? What's behind Spencer now? There is not a lot of programs right now that are too deep. We don't have we're not as fortunate as Texas A&M and LSU right now and this Georgia. There are a couple of programs that have got that depth, but it is what it is. We're banking on Anthony Richardson being the savior of that football team this season, and I'm not willing to worry about injury. Like if I can only get 9 games out of Anthony Richardson, I am happy with those 9 games. But I'm going in ready for a complete season. You cannot worry about injuries. That's one thing. You just can't do it, man. Especially if you're gambling. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you feel like Florida is going to hit that over, man, do it because you're betting on Anthony Richardson being healthy the entire season and putting up some Heisman numbers.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned A&M and LSU, Shane, because, hey, I hope, nobody transfers out. But as soon as they name a starter, hell, for all we know, there could be multiple transfers. You know what I mean? So who knows how long they'll have depth at the quarterback position even.
Exactly.
Now, last stop here, Shane, on the show, let's kick it down to Lexington, where old Rich Scangarello, the new offensive coordinator, met with the media here on Tuesday, talks up a little bit of what they're cooking up there in Lexington. They're trying to keep it a mystery. Is it going to be the 49ers offense? Is it going to be Liam Cohen's offense? Is it going to be a mixed mash of all of it? Is it the Sean McVay offense? They're keeping everybody in the dark here, which you got to like if you're a Kentucky fan. You got to hate if you're a Florida Gator. But we're going to find out soon enough. But Scangarello, all about mixing in these pieces that they have. And it seems like he's very, very pleased with the intelligence of a lot of the players that he inherited down there in Lexington.
And I'm just warning you before he jumps on, this is the only coach that is actually being recorded at Kentucky Speedway pit lane. So I don't know what it is with Kentucky. Every coach goes inside to have these interviews except for Kentucky. They're just enjoying that beautiful weather while we got it, I guess.
Yeah, no joke, Shady. He stopped at once because there was a damn ambulance coming through. He stopped at another time because there's like a construction crew. I mean, film this damn thing in the indoor complex. You know what?
Oh, they love it outside, man. I mean, it does get colder up there before everywhere else. So maybe that's, they're just make hay while the sun shines,
No, you got young guys and older guys, and quite honestly, like, it's exciting. You got guys with different types of traits. You got possession guys, speed guys, bigger guys, fast guys. You got slots, you got separators. And in this offense, you know, we move people around. So we incorporate. You don't need to be have to beat the guy that could beat press every down. Like, we're gonna move and motion and do different things to help guys do what they do best. And so I think there's a place for all those guys to contribute. And then, of course, the guys who are your bell cows, they'll emerge to the top, and we'll feed them where we can.
We always hear about how complex the NFL offense is. What are you as a coaching staff doing to kind of maybe dumb down a little things so that...
No dumb in here. No, I mean, honestly, like, I will tell you, I mean, Coach, to the credit of this staff, they recruited some really intelligent football players, guys that are football smart, guys that can learn, guys that, you know, you can get ready to do their job. And I would say that I believe combining that with a smart center, a smart quarterback, and then having these guys that can learn packages is how we'll do it. And I think that's a credit to the staff. We got to be great teachers. We got to be on point. I've done this a few times now, so I know how to mainstream who can do what and what's too much. And we'll push the volume as much as we can. But when we get to a point where we feel it's a little much, we got to be sensitive to that and make sure they can play fast and we don't take that away.
Coach, what did you like about D. Beckwith when you were evaluating this film? He obviously didn't play a ton at Tennessee, so what jumped out there?
I mean, he's got a great physical build. He was here in camp. They recruited him hard when he was here before. Really, I think it came down to Kentucky and Tennessee on his decision making. And personally, we're looking for I call them chess pieces. You know, we want as many as these interchangeable parts to run our offense to create this illusion of a lot, but put you in a world we want to play with these different types of players that can do a lot of things. And, you know, I don't know if he's more tight end, more running back, more receiver. We're figuring that out as we go. I didn't have him in spring, so we're finding a role for him in that way. But I think I was able to do that with a lot of guys, and we have a lot of types of players like that. The more you have, the more you can create the complexity without running a lot more plays. And that's what we're trying to do.
But, hey, Shane, all jokes aside, I like the message here from Scangarello.
Yeah.
You know, there's several different ways, Shane, to make your offense look sophisticated, but you could be running basically the same plays out of different formations. You could catch the defense napping. I love the fact that, you know, he's wanting to move pieces all around to get the best matchups. And something I didn't even include in here that I thought was really interesting, he, coming from the NFL ranks, he notes that during the summer months, you get more time with your players in college now than you do in the NFL because the NFL is so damn restrictive on having players come in. So it's just kind of interesting to hear comments like that, and maybe you know, he's appreciating what he's got, and he's able to do more of an install this summer than he would in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. How many coaches got fined this offseason in the NFL because practice was too physical? You know? It's like, you ain't saying that shit in Lexington. I'll tell you that right now. No, this is good. It needs to be more hands-on, and I don't think. You know, that's the one thing. I don't think he came in here to reinvent the wheel. Mm-hmm. You know, they had a system that worked last year. It need fine-tuning, and I think that's what they're focused on. And that's kind of the NFL approach, in my opinion, because you got an NFL quarterback with Will Levis. I think there was a lot of mistakes that he made last season that I think he can learn from. And I think that's what you do with that NFL mentality. Just fix the mistakes, fix the problems, be more efficient, and you do that, then we can open up the playbook a little bit. So that's what I'm looking for in Kentucky. I'm not looking for them to come out with a totally different offense here. I'm looking for them to fine-tune what they were working on last season, because if it was run properly, they'd had a lot more victories last year.
Mm-hmm. All right, Shane, well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of the show, unless you got anything before we hop off the line.
No, that's just great, man. I just love it every day. I mean, we're talking, man, about tomorrow. We're like, okay, when's he coming out? When's this? So we're coordinating, and as soon as we get it, like I said, just jump on the YouTube channel. We'll have it uploaded for you, and then if you don't want to mess around with that, we'll wait till the next morning. We'll recap it for you.
Exactly. Well, Shane, as always, I appreciate you joining me. I appreciate each and every one of you for checking us out. Football season right around the corner, and we'll keep you up to date on everything happening around the SEC. But we'll catch you on the next one.
All right. See you guys. Go Vols.
All right, Shane. Hey, back. Emergency podcast here at the end of the tail end of the show. This literally
like Billy
happened.
Mays. But wait, there's more.
This literally happened right as soon as we stopped hitting the record button, jumped off. We were just recapping what our day's looking like tomorrow. And then Missouri names Brady Cook, Shane, starting quarterback, QB1 up there in Columbia. And this is just a couple days after old Eli made it be known that, hey, they're nowhere close to naming a starting quarterback. But it's going to be Brady Cook. And I don't know, thoughts on that?
Initial thoughts is sure. You know what I'm saying? I don't think Brady Cook ends the season, but this is not a surprise for me at the start of the season. Does that sound crazy?
No, not at all. I mean, they still got Tyler Macon, an Elite 11 quarterback on the roster. They still have the incoming Sam Horn, who, he still has to decide, I think, about Major League Baseball and where his future is with all that, but he is on campus. How quickly can they get him up to speed? He's supposed to be a tremendous talent. But I will say this, Shay, we had SEC stat cat Clark Brooks on the show about a month or two ago, and he put the quarterbacks in tiers after studying all the tape, and he only had 4 SEC quarterbacks in the elite category, and he had Brady Cook among that group. But it was based on just Brady Cook didn't play a lot, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. He only played in about a game and a half last year, was very efficient with the football, not solid but not spectacular. And now Missouri knows who they're going into the season with, heading into that Louisiana Tech. Remember, Missouri plays on that Thursday, so they're right there with the Vols. They're going to be one of the first teams in the SEC, one of the first teams in the country to take the field. And now we know the quarterback that'll be under center.
Yeah, and again, why it's not a surprise for me, it's just here's a guy that's been around the system. Kind of gives me the same impression that LSU's going to do. Kind of same thing with Miles Brennan. It wouldn't surprise me if Miles comes out, but buddy, this is still an open competition, and Eli's going to come out and say that when he comes out to the podium. This is still anybody's ball game, but I do like the fact that he named somebody, Mike, because this is again somebody that can focus on those number 1 reps. That's what Mizzou needs, man. They need to hit the ground running. They cannot afford. We talked about their scheduling, Mike. They cannot afford to stumble out of the gates. So you got a quarterback. Let's start working and let's start building this team right.
I'm going to give a plug, Shane, to Rock M Nation, the SB Nation site that covers Missouri. They did a breakdown on every quarterback competition that Drinkowitz has been involved with, and I think it's like 4 or 5, and about 3 of them, the initial starter, just like you said, was not the starter by the end of the season. So, hey, read into that what you will, but while the competition in training camp may be over, that does not mean that we won't see more quarterbacks this season on the field for the Tigers, and it doesn't mean that by season's end, Brady Cook will be that guy. Now, I think if you're a Mizzou fan, you hope Brady Cook takes this thing and runs with it, but we're just saying, keep your eye on some of these other guys, particularly Sam Horn. I'm very interested to see what the true freshman brings to the field if he does suit up for the Tigers this fall.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. We gotta. We're just buying time, but who knows, man? How many times we said the same thing about Stetson down in Georgia? Yep. He's coming in here to hold the spot for a little bit to one of these other guys, and all of a sudden, I'm not saying Mizzou's going to win a national championship, but they may win a lot of games, and it may be because of this quarterback selection, Brady Cook.
All right, Shane. Well, hey, let's end this thing for real this time, huh? But unless any other starting quarterbacks are named in the next 10 minutes, we'll catch you guys on the next episode on Thursday.
All right. Yeah. See you guys again. See it, 10 minutes from now. So we'll find out who LSU's quarterback will be.